Origami here, back with you once again for another video. Sorry for the long hiatus, everyone, but had to get things in order. And also to wait for the release of the ban list. Now, this deck right here is ready for when the ban list is official, which will be in the 28th of January. And it's Monarchs, and we all know one card was released. That's right. Stormforth is now at 3. But in this deck, I believe 2 should do you really good. Now, onto the monster lineup. We're going to start with the obvious 3 of. You want to run 3 Erebus, the Underworld Monarch. He's just a staple in the deck. You cannot go wrong with him. Running just 2 of him won't do the deck any justice. Next, for 2 ofs, we run 2 Chaos, the Mega Monarch. Good for popping face-down monsters, for getting rid of face-down monsters and banishing them. This is just a great card. I personally run him at 2, but you can run him at 1 if you want. 1 Ether, sadly, still at 1. One day, she will be back at 2, hopefully. 1 Telos, the Mega Monarch. It's been a while since I've seen this deck, but I'm very excited to see it back. And he's just good for looking in your opponent's hand and getting rid of any problematic monster and burning them for 200 times the level of that said monster. Next, for 2 of our level 7s, we run Chaos, the Light Monarch. Good for clearing back row. Of course, the negative side is you may get your opponent to draw 2 cards, or you destroy a card on your side of the field, which you want to do, and one card on your opponent's field, so each of you draw one card. It's good for that effect. Next, I run the Vanities engine, which actually should be 2 Vanities Fiends, but I run Vanity and Majesty. I run Majesty for the effect, for the can't be special summon, all monster effects are negated, and him for neither player can special summon a monster. So, what you want to do most of the time is if you summon either one of these along with the Monarch Erupt, it's just your opponent can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! No more. So, those are always good. Next, you're going to play 3 Idios, the Heavenly Squire. The reason I say 3 is because when we go into the spells, you'll see why, but he's just good for that. When you normal summon him, or even special summon him, he's good because he gives you that additional normal summon to tribute summon. And when he's in the grave, you can just banish to summon your Idia. Speaking of which, I now run only 2 Idia, seeing as the one spell that I run in this deck, Allure Darkness, you don't have that much light monsters. The only ones you have in here are Ether, Majesty, and Idia. So the chances of you drawing into them is very slim, but seeing as you always will have Idios or any of the other Monarch spells, you can easily get to her. Off to the spells. And of course, it's a spell we've been waiting for. Monarch Stormforth. For those of you that don't know, once per turn during the turn, if you were to tribute summon a monster, you control a tribute. If you control a tribute summon, you can tribute 1 monster your opponent controls as if it was the monster you control. Activate Monarch the Stormforth once per turn. During the turn you activate this card, you cannot special summon from the extra deck. So, this card allows you to kaiju one of your opponent's monsters along with yours to tribute summon for a tribute monster. This card, there was a legitimate reason why it was banned. Now with cards like Ash Blossom and all that, I can see why they brought it back to 3. But I think with this deck, 2 of them is just great. If you have more than that, that's crazy. But 2 I believe will work out just fine. Next, you want to run 1 March of the Monarchs. Then you run 3 Allure Darkness. This is what helps you draw into your deck and further your plays. And yes, you may be banishing some dark monsters, but most of your Monarch cards can be recovered. Or sometimes you just want to banish your Erebus. I mean your Idios. So next 3, Tenacity of the Monarchs. Reveal 1 monster in your hand with 2,000 attack or 1,000 defense, or 800 attack and 1,000 defense. Add a Monarch spell or trap from your deck from your deck to your hand, except this card itself. It can only be activated once per turn. This is a great card that helps you go further into your deck, along with the 3 cards. Next, we run the 3 field spell, Domain of the Monarchs. This is just needs to be a 3. Next, I run 2 Terraformings. I'm not too sure if this is the right ratio. Might need to look at the ban list again, but 2 just for recovery. But then again, you have Tenacity to get that out, to get your domain. But having 2 of these is good. I personally would probably bump this down to 1. I may do that soon, but 2 for right now. Next, I will run 1 Return of the Monarchs. Just as if you keep tributing something, if you tribute summon a 2,400 attack monster, you get to search that from your deck to your hand. If you do the same for 2,800, you search for that as well. So this is pretty good for just searching, going through quicker in your deck. The 1 Pantheism of the Monarchs, still at 1, but this card just helps you go into that. And plus the 1 play, you can still do the 1 play where you line up, where you reveal 3 domains, force your opponent to choose 1. This is just an overall good card and should remain at 1, I firmly believe. Of course, we run the 1 Monster Reborn. The 1 for 1, just to get to your Idia, so you have a way to get to her. And Reinforcement Army, also to get to your Idia. Now on for the traps. The trap lineup has gone through a little bit of a change, but not too drastic. Of course, you want to run 3, the Monarch Eruption, the Monarch Erupt, just to disrupt your opponent's plays, and they cannot activate their effects as long as you control a tribute monster. If your opponent tributes a monster, this effect just no longer exists. But that's why you have Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend for that. Next, you play 2 Prime Monarchs, just to recover cards from your graveyard. Just to recover 2 cards from your graveyard and shove them back into the deck, and then draw a card. And also, this card can be you banish 2 Monarch Spell traps, then special summon this in defense mode as a monster, and you can tribute it for 2 tribute summon. Run that at 2. And next for our 1-offs, and these are just traps, Bottomless Trap Hole for any problematic monster, and just to deal with problematic boards and monsters. Recall, this is to take the place of a Solemn Strike for me. This is, until I get a Solemn Strike, this card will do just fine. I mean, it's a really good effect that you can negate the activation and destroy the monster when it activates its effect, but the downside is if your opponent gets to +1. I mean, it's not a good card, but it's good for what it does. And then I run the 1 Solemn Warning. So, yeah. Also, onto the side deck. This is the first time I'm going to ever have a side deck, so there's 1 more Return of the Monarch, a Foolish Burial, Restoration of the Monarchs. I only have 1 of these, because this is actually a really terrible Monarch card. But I'll run 1 because it pretty much does what Monster Reborn does, but Monster Reborn does it better. I have 1 Mystical Space Typhoon to clear back row, and the 3rd Idia if you want to trade out an Idios to run 3 Idia. So there's that. Alright guys, that was my updated deck profile on Domain Monarchs. I have to say, I'm really excited that Monarch Stormforth is back at 3. Even though this deck doesn't use 3, it uses 2. 2, I believe, is good enough for this deck, and good enough to combat the meta, as this is, again, an anti-meta deck. And it's good to see it be at least back in full force a bit. Of course, I'm pretty sure we're not going to see it at any locals or YCSs. But, yeah. Anyways, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and stay notified for the next video. And anyways, this is Playmaker Agami, signing off.